Welcome to the deep dive. We've got some really interesting material you sent over looking at the time right after World War II.
Yeah, it's about those key moments that sort of signaled things were shifting.
Exactly. Like, when did it feel like the civil rights movement really had a chance, or maybe even had to happen? We're trying to figure out those turning points.
Right. It wasn't like it just appeared suddenly. It was building for a long time, generations, really.
Like pressure building up.
Precisely. And after the war, things really started changing, leading to some big shifts. These weren't just random events, they were signs.
Okay, so let's unpack this.
Mhm.
First up, Jackie Robinson. Now, I know it's baseball, but the material suggests this was way bigger than just a game.
Oh, absolutely. Before 1947, Major League Baseball had a strict color line. No black players allowed, period.
Just completely segregated.
Yeah, and baseball was, huge in America. So that segregation in the sport, it just reflected what was happening everywhere else.
In housing, schools, jobs.
Exactly. Really talented black players. They were stuck in the Negro Leagues. It wasn't just about sports. It mirrored society's rules.
Then Branch Rickey, from the Brooklyn Dodgers, decides to sign Jackie Robinson. What was behind that? Just wanting a winning team.
Well, Ricky was. Interesting. It seems like it was a mix. He genuinely thought segregation was wrong, morally.
Okay.
But he was also smart business-wise. He saw all this incredible talent in the Negro Leagues just being ignored. Signing Robinson was definitely a risk.
A calculated one.
Probably. But also a pretty bold move towards fairness, tapping into potential that was just sidelined. Did he know how big the impact would be? Maybe not fully, but he knew it mattered.
So, 1947, Robinson plays for the Dodgers. Why was this such a big deal beyond just baseball? What was the ripple effect?
It put integration right out there on a national stage and something people really cared about.
Right. Everyone watched baseball.
Exactly. So every game forced people, white Americans especially, to see black and white players competing together and winning together.
That must have challenged some deep-seated ideas.
Definitely. Start chipping away at that whole idea of racial hierarchy,
Yeah.
Showed it could work.
And the courage Robinson needed. I mean, the racism he faced, it's hard to even imagine.
Oh, it was awful. Slurs from the stands, players trying to hurt him.
Mhm.
Even some teammates weren't welcoming at first. Death threats, too, against him and his family. But he handled it with such dignity, didn't lash out, just played brilliantly. And that combination, his skill and his refusal to react to the hate, it slowly won people over.
He became a symbol.
Absolutely. A symbol of hope, proof of what black Americans could do if given the chance. And his, quiet strength maybe opened the door for louder challenges elsewhere later on. It kind of shifted what seemed possible.
Like he was living proof of a different way things could be. Okay, let's shift gears. Desegregation of the military. It's kind of ironic, isn't it? Fighting fascism abroad.
While maintaining segregation at home in the armed forces. Yeah, it's a stark contrast.
Black soldiers served bravely in World War II.
They absolutely did. Fought for democracy overseas, but were often in segregated units, faced discrimination, treated like second-class citizens within the military.
That must have been incredibly frustrating.
Profoundly. And it fueled a lot of determination for change when they came back. They fought for freedom. They expected it back home, too.
So then, 1948, President Truman steps in with Executive Order 9981. What did that order actually do?
It was huge. It officially stated that there had to be equality of treatment and opportunity for everyone in the military, regardless of race, color, religion, or national origin.
A clear order to dismantle segregation.
Yes, a direct command from the top.
But the material suggests it wasn't like flipping a switch, right? Integration didn't happen overnight.
No, definitely not. Policy is one thing, practice is another. It was slow. There was resistance inside the military itself. It took years, really, for full integration.
But still, a major step.
Hugely significant. The military is such a central institution. Desegregating it sent a powerful message,
You're right.
especially after fighting against racist ideologies in the war.
The hypocrisy was becoming undeniable.
Exactly. So this federal action, even if slow, signaled a growing acceptance, at least at the top, that change needed to happen.
So we see cracks appearing in sports, in the military. Now, let's talk about a major legal fight. Brown v. Board of Education. But first, we probably need to touch on separate but equal.
Right. You can't really get Brown without understanding Plessy v. Ferguson from way back in 1896.
That's the case that established separate but equal, right?
Unfortunately, yes. It basically said segregation was okay legally as long as the separate things, schools, train cars, whatever, were equal.
But they rarely, if ever, actually were equal.
Almost never. Facilities for Black Americans were consistently underfunded, inferior. It was a flawed idea from the start, but it gave legal cover to segregation, especially in schools.
And the NAACP decided to take this on directly. How did they approach challenging segregated schools?
They were very strategic. Thurgood Marshall and the NAACP Legal Defense Fund didn't just attack everything at once. They focused hard on education.
Why education specifically?
They built case after case showing how unequal segregated schools really were. Not just buildings and books, but the harm segregation itself caused Black children psychologically. Their argument became, separation is inherently unequal.
Regardless of resources.
Exactly, that the act of separating kids based on race sends a message of inferiority.
And then, 1954, the Supreme Court rules unanimously in Brown v. Board. What was the core finding?
It was truly historic. The court said state-sponsored segregation in public schools violates the Constitution, specifically the 14th Amendment's guarantee of equal protection.
So it directly overturned Plessy, at least for schools.
It did. It declared that separate educational facilities are inherently unequal. That was the key shift. Not just about unequal funding, but the segregation itself being wrong and harmful.
That sounds like a massive win. What happened next? Was it smooth sailing?
Not at all. It was a landmark legal victory, absolutely. But the reaction on the ground, especially in the South, was intense resistance, often violent.
People didn't just accept the ruling.
Far from it. Many states basically said they wouldn't follow it. They used all sorts of tactics to delay or just block integration. So a huge legal step, but implementing it, that was going to be another long, hard fight.
Which brings us straight to the Little Rock Nine in 1957. This really put the conflict on display for everyone. What set this off?
Well, after Brown, the Little Rock School Board had a plan for slowly desegregating Central High School. But the governor of Arkansas, Orville Faubus, he actively defied a federal court order. He called out the Arkansas National Guard to physically stop 9 Black students from entering the school.
The governor used state troops to block federal law?
Yes, a direct confrontation.
How did President Eisenhower react to that?
Initially, he hoped the local authorities would sort it out, but Faubus wouldn't back down, and the situation got chaotic. Eisenhower realized he had to uphold the law and the Supreme Court's authority.
So what did he do?
He did 2 things. First, he federalized the Arkansas National Guard, basically put them under his command, taking them away from Faubus. Then he sent in actual federal troops, the 101st Airborne Division.
Army troops to a high school.
Yes. Their job was to protect those 9 students and make sure they could get into Central High.
Wow. The image of soldiers escorting kids to school past angry mobs, that must have been incredibly powerful.
Extremely. It was all over the news around the world. It showed very clearly the clash between federal authority and state resistance.
And the courage of those students.
Unbelievable courage. The Little Rock Nine faced terrible harassment, threats, abuse day after day. They became heroes, really. And the whole event showed that just having the law wasn't enough. It would take federal power to enforce it.
Okay, one more piece here.
Yeah.
The President's Commission on Civil Rights and its report to secure these rights, this was actually pretty early, right? 1946.
Yeah, Truman set it up not long after the war ended. He was clearly troubled by the ongoing racial injustice, especially seeing Black veterans return home to the same old discrimination after fighting fascism.
So he wanted to investigate.
He wanted a thorough look at civil rights across the country and, crucially, recommendations for what the federal government should do about it. He felt a moral duty to act.
And the report itself, to secure these rights, came out in 1947. What kind of things did it recommend?
It was remarkably bold for its time, really comprehensive. It called for federal laws against lynching, which was still happening.
Unbelievable.
It called for desegregating the military, which, as we saw, Truman did act on soon after. It pushed for guaranteed voting rights for everyone and fair employment practices to fight job discrimination.
Basically, a whole agenda for civil rights.
Exactly. A clear roadmap. It really established the principle that the federal government had a responsibility to protect these rights for all Americans.
So even before Brown or Little Rock, there was this high-level government report calling for major federal action. How important was this report, even if Congress didn't immediately pass all those laws?
It was incredibly important. It gave the growing civil rights movement a kind of intellectual and moral backing from within the government structure. It shaped the national conversation.
It put these issues formally on the table.
Right. Even though political roadblocks in Congress slowed down actual legislation for a while, to secure these rights was like a blueprint. It showed a recognition at the executive level that racial inequality was systemic and needed federal solutions. It set goals for the future.
Okay, so if we pull all these threads together, Jackie Robinson breaking barriers in
Yeah,
baseball,
military starting to desegregate,
the huge legal shift with Brown v. Board,
the dramatic confrontation in Little Rock.
and that early forward-thinking President's Commission report.
Yeah, looking at them all, it really paints a picture of the post-war years as a crucial turning point. It felt like the time was becoming right for a major push for civil rights.
Absolutely. These events happening in different parts of American life, sports, military, schools, policy, they all pointed towards change.
They showed two things, really. One, just how deep the problem of racial inequality still was.
No doubt about that.
But two, they also showed a growing determination, especially among Black Americans and their allies, to fight it. And importantly, they showed that there were new ways emerging to challenge the system.
Through individual courage, legal action, federal intervention.
Exactly. Even with all the resistance, which was fierce, these events created a sense that change was possible. It built momentum.
And it also clearly showed how tough the road ahead would be.
Precisely. These were huge steps, real victories. But they also highlighted the massive obstacles, the entrenched resistance the movement would face for years to come. The fight was far, far from over.
But the fuse had definitely been lit.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. The potential for real fundamental change felt more real than ever before.
This has been really insightful, sort of connecting the dots in that crucial period. Now, thinking about all this, here are a few questions for you, our listeners, to chew on. When you consider Jackie Robinson, the military desegregation, Brown v. Board, Little Rock, and to secure these rights, report which one, or maybe which combination, do you think was the most significant signal that the time was right for the civil rights movement? And why that one? Think about individuals like Jackie Robinson facing down hate on the field, or those incredibly brave students in Little Rock. How did their personal actions, their courage, contribute to the wider movement? What impact did that have? We talked about Truman's executive order and his commission. How did the federal government's role seem to be changing, or at least starting to shift, when it came to civil rights in these early post-war years? What does that suggest? And finally, given these key events and the pushback they often generated, what major hurdles or challenges do you think were still standing in the way? What obstacles did the civil rights movement still absolutely have to overcome after these initial breakthroughs?